Comes from a Greek word called Janus. And Janus literally means God of doors. As you can see on your screen, it comes with a pictorial diagram of two faces, one facing the future and the other facing the past. The reason for this is January is a very pivotal month in the world of business because you need the information of the past to be able to predict what's likely going to happen in the world of business for the future. The future we're talking about is 2024, and we're in it already. But the best way to predict what's likely going to happen in 2024 is using the data of 2023. And that's why I'm here. I'm sure your guess is as good as mine because it's not a familiar phrase. My name is Frank Fagbo, and I'm going to be your host for the Business Hour. It's a 50 minutes episode each and every work day, where we talk about issues bedeviling the global business landscape, the Nigerian business landscape, the continental business landscape, and the global business landscape at large. Here, we break it down for the man on the street to understand. And I'm going to tell you why we break it down for the man on the street to understand. It's simply because the man on the street who's watching me has nothing less than 60% input in the Nigerian GDP. When I say 60% input in the Nigerian GDP, meaning they are Boki on the street who sells suya, the woman on the street who sells pepper. She has much more contribution to the Nigerian GDP than the capital market or than I don't want to mention names now, but you know these people that I'm talking about, than everything in the capital market, than the big industries you think about, the informal sector. And if the informal sector is responsible for more than 60% of Nigeria's GDP, it tells us it gives us a very important argument that the informal sector is very, very important. And that's why we're here. So that we'll break all the policies and all the politics around the world of business, understanding your money, understanding what it means for you to tell your customer savings or current. And if you can understand all these things, it tells us that with information you get from Voice of the People TV, you will use it to at least make the economy better. In one way or the other, feed your family. In one way or the other, feed the state, feed the local government, feed the nation, and who knows, we just might be feeding the continent or feeding the entire globe. My name is Frank Fagbo, like I said, and let's take a look at what happened in 2023 for the next 50 minutes or 40 minutes or 30 minutes. Let's take a look at what happened in 2023. The first story we have, one of the big stories we have in 2023 was the aspect of scarcity of Naira and the new Naira notes. Remember that the Naira was scarce, and one fundamental law in economics is the fact that scarcity increases value. But this time around, the scarcity of the Naira didn't increase the value of the Naira. POS operators were at the verge of featuring on the billionaire Forbes list. Why? Because they made a fortune at that point in time. They made a fortune in 2023. They were charging as high as 3,000 Naira for 5,000 Naira withdrawal. That's massive. And if you ask me, a lot of Nigerians were very, very angry at that moment and that season because they felt they were surcharged, they were used. People felt abused with the Naira because the Naira is a very common commodity. Each and every Nigerian has the legal right to have access to our legal tender called the Naira. As long as you're doing everything within the legal framework to earn a living, anything within the legal framework to make sure you contribute to the Nigerian economy. And that's why a lot of Nigerians were very angry with the fact that the Naira was scarce. And this scarcity of the Naira did not reflect on the value, because if it did reflect, there's no way the Naira to the dollar would be at what it is right now, at around nothing less than 1,200 Naira to the dollar. Another massive story was POS operator holding the Naira. A lot of politicians holding the Naira. POS operators thought they were going to feature on the billionaires Forbes list. And this time around, it didn't happen because we didn't see any of them on the billionaire Forbes list. Now, I think things are back to normal, apart from the fact that during the festive season in December, a lot of people realized that we had somewhat of a bit scarcity as regards the Naira, but I think things are back to normal right now. One other big story in 2023 that literally affected each and every Nigerian, high-income earner, mid-income earner, and even the low-income earners. Everyone was affected by the policy. And it came because 2023 was a very, very pivotal year in the world of business and also in politics. Why? We had a new government. And when we have a new government, there are so many scuffles, there are so many reshuffling and new policies coming into place. But this time around, we were not surprised because the policy came in on the first day of the new administration. Fuel subsidy removal. The fuel subsidy removal was very, very massive. It was a massive, massive policy. It was a massive news across the length and breadth of Nigeria because a lot of people started asking the question. Some people even got to know the meaning of fuel subsidy removal, where the government was no longer subsidizing, paying for Nigerians to be able to afford what we call crude oil, to be able to afford fuel. And it's affected the price of fuel. Fuel selling as high as 600 Naira, depending on how far it is. And now, depending on how far it is for marketers to be able to get access to the commodity. So states that were really far from the port had to pay more because now market forces were the determinant factor as regards the price. It had nothing to do with the government. The government wasn't the full determinant factor as regards the price of fuel. It was with the market. So meaning, if the demand decreased, it means that the price would decrease. And if the demand increased, it's definitely going to affect the price. And also, if the supply, meaning if it becomes scarce, it's definitely going to affect the price. And I'm going to explain this for you to understand. The reason why one of the most expensive commodity in the world is diamond. The reason why it is that expensive is because you most likely haven't seen it before. You haven't seen pure diamond. And so because of the fact that it is scarce, it tells us the reason why it is that expensive. The more scarce a commodity becomes, the higher the price. The higher the price it is. That's why you see that a lot of these luxury goods, when you see limited edition on the body of those goods, or you see it's limited edition on the body of these goods, or the price or the requirements for you to be able to purchase those goods, it increases the price. And once the price increases, definitely it's going to trickle down on the customers. And that's literally what happened regarding the fuel subsidy removal. So some stations started selling, some fuel stations started selling at different prices. People sold at 500, some people sold at 600. So what really happened was the customers were the ones determining the price, the market. And once the market is in charge of price, definitely it's going to vary. That's why when you go to the stock shop and you go to some malls, you find out that the price of this particular commodity, be it soap or any FMCG product, it differs from one point to the other. So that was literally the big story. And we are literally an oil economy. And as an oil economy, we deal on oil. Our major revenue earnings is from oil. Our major export is still on oil. And so once we have that, you realize that we are fully entrenched as an oil economy. We're entrenched in that particular product. And once that particular product is a primary product in an economy, if you remove subsidy from that product, it's going to trickle down into literally almost all products and services across that particular economy. And that's what happened. It caused about inflation. A lot of people, there's so many products that were linked to just that product called fuel. you want to get something, you want to go to the office, it's definitely going to affect your transportation. You're going to the market to restock your shop, or the Aboki on the street going to restock her shop. The Igbo man in the street also trying to sell electronics. The Yoruba man going to the office or going to do anything. Each and every Nigerian is one way or the other related, is one way or the other has everything doing with fuel. And if you have everything doing with fuel, and that price of fuel increased by nothing less than 100%, to the tune of 200%, oh my goodness, it's definitely going to affect each and every product. The next big story we had in 2023 that we're going to cover is the launch of the Dangote refinery. Still on fuel subsidy. Still on the big stories of 2023, I beg your pardon. The launch of Dangote refinery. And the funny thing is, I had the opportunity to be there live during the launch, and the who and who of Nigeria was there because it meant everything to the Nigerian economy. If you check the preceding story, we talked about fuel, and we can't get fuel if we don't have refinery, if we don't refine our existing crude oil. And that was why the Dangote refinery was very instrumental for the entire Nigeria. The president, as at then, was there. Almost all the ministers, state governors, everyone was there at Ibejuleki. Massive project, if you ask me. But quite unfortunate, after the launch of the Dangote refinery, months and months after the launch, we did not have a product refined from that refinery up until sometime in November. But good thing, you're definitely going to hear from the big stories of 2024. Another big news from the capital market that hits Nigerians was the billionaire battle over Transcorp Hilton, over the hotel Transcorp, between Tony Elumelu and Femi Otedola. These are two billionaires. And you know what they say, when two billionaires have an issue or they have a challenge as regards targeting a particular hostile takeover, is definitely going to affect the grasses. Just like what they say, when two elephants fight, it's definitely going to affect the grasses. And who were the grasses? The capital market. It affected the capital market because one of the parties, which is Tony Elumelu, was going for ownership. Femi Otedola was going for profits as regards the battle over Transcorp Hilton. Femi Otedola came over and went about a hostile takeover over Transcorp. But Tony realized that he was losing on ownership as regards the Transcorp. Being the biggest shareholder on Transcorp, he realized that he was losing on ownership. And what he did was that he decided to buy back all the shares from Femi Otedola, and he remained the biggest and the largest shareholder of that particular asset in our capital market. And that asset, should I let out the news right now? That asset turned out to be one of the biggest gainers in the entire capital market of 2024. Because when we're rounding off 2023, I beg your pardon, when we're rounding off the entire market of 2023, we realized that Transcorp did more than 1,000% in the entire capital market. Meaning if you had 1,000 Naira invested in Transcorp, multiply that by 1,000%, that will give you the value at which you're going to get at the close of the capital market in 2023. Just like every other thing that happened in 2023 transitioned us into what happened in 2024. What is happening right now, and using all those data from the fuel subsidy removal to the launch of the Dangote refinery, to POS operator, to the scarcity of the Naira, a lot of businesses were shut down because of scarcity. A lot of people went out of business at that point in time. And a lot of people also made a fortune at also that point in time. So using that data, just like the Greek god Janus having two faces, but this time around not Idibia. We're talking about the god of doors. One face predicting, telling us, using the information of the past to predict the future. Now, what exactly are the top stories of the future we're predicting? The top stories in 2024 so far, this is the first week of 2024, and we're having, on the first day of 2024, President Tinubu signed the budget into law. 28.7 trillion naira. I almost said dollars. But one day, who knows, Nigeria is going to transition into a massive, massive economy whose GDP is going to be read in terms of trillion dollars. Till then, let's stick to what we have right now, which is 28.7 trillion naira. 2024 budget. And just like I always say in economics, is that before venturing into any year, or before venturing into anything, you need to sit down and count the costs. I wasn't the one that said that. It's even the holy books. You need to sit down and count the cost. What is it going to cost me? What is the year 2024? What's going to be the output of the year 2024? What do I need to write down? Draft a budget. And if the country drafts a budget, then the state should also draft budget. And that's why we have states also passing in budget. The local government should also draft budget. And it should also transition into businesses drafting budget, because businesses have their budget for the year. And that's why when you bring in a tender for a particular business, they tell you, oh, this was not part of our budget. And if they can't put that into the miscellaneous expense for the entire year, then they're going to slash it out because it's not part of the budget. So the nation passed her budget. Nigeria passed 28.7 trillion naira as regards the budget in 2024. We call it the budget of renewed hope. 28.7 trillion naira. What were the highlights of the budget as at 1st of January going into the year? That's a landmark, by the way, because in the past, do we have governments that sign in the budget and 1st of January? This is a plus for this government. But beyond the budget, one of the major things that a lot of Nigerians clamor for is the fact that we need people, we need governments that would implement the budget. It's one thing to have a budget, it's one thing to have a plan, but it's another thing to be able to stick to that plan, implement all of the items on that plan to the total benefits, to the entire benefit of every Nigerian. And that's what we are talking about. So the National Assembly passed the budget, and in that budget, we have nothing less than 1.7 trillion naira earmarked for statutory transfers. Statutory transfers, meaning everything that has to do with statutory payment that has to do with MDAs, ministries, departments, agencies. Those are the items of the budget that cannot be touched or tampered with. It's fixed, more or less like the budget for INEC, more or less like the budget for different MDAs and all of that. We have 1.74 trillion naira for that budget. And we also have 8.27 trillion naira for debt servicing. Debt servicing, this is massive. Because we've been servicing our debts for donkey years. And right now we have nothing less than 8.27 trillion naira for debt servicing. How can we be servicing our debt with 8.27 trillion naira? Knowing fully well that some of what exactly, I think it's not a bad thing to be able to incur debt. But one of the most important things to understand about debt is to know what was it spent on. Was it spent on liabilities or spent on assets? It would be a beautiful thing if we incur debt that we in turn spend on different assets that will churn in a lot of resources for the Nigerian economy. It's not a problem at all if we do that, or even incur debt for capital project. But we see some throughout the investigation of the debts we incurred in the past from 2023 down to 2022, we see that some of the monies we got from debt through incurring debt was spent on frivolities. And if we spend money on frivolities, incurring debt is definitely going to affect us, because now we are servicing those debts with nothing less than 8.27 trillion naira earmarked for debt servicing. Another massive thing that you need to understand on this budget is that we've earmarked 8.76 trillion naira for recurrent expenditure. Recurrent expenditure like salaries, some other things that keeps on recurring, and some other things, especially salaries. We're spending 8.7 trillion naira servicing salaries. Then one of the biggest things on the list is also 9.99 trillion naira for capital expenditure, to build your roads, to build your hospitals, to build to fit in for the infrastructural deficit we have, different capital projects across different industries. We've earmarked 9.99 trillion naira for capital projects. So if we look at all these things regarding the Nigerian budget, that tells us that there are a lot of things to spend money on as Nigerians. We're not also going to overlook the fact that we have some amount that is also earmarked for our politicians, the big boys who are taking a chunk of the Nigerian economy, big boys who are taking a chunk of the Nigerian budget, the National Assembly. A lot of money also earmarked for them as regards the Nigerian budget that was passed. 28.7 trillion naira. Massive, massive amount if you ask me. But this time around, what is way more important is implementing everything we have on the budget. The next big story so far in 2023 is that we started the year in a good start as regards the Nigerian Stock Exchange, because now the first week of 2024, we've got nothing less than 6.54% as regards the NGX, meaning the Nigerian Stock Exchange, the Nigerian Exchange Limited. The first week finished fantastically well, 6.75% as regards profit. It's been a profitable week so far. The all share index of the Nigerian capital market, 6.54%, which closed at 79,000 basis points, which is 79 basis points. Massive numbers, if you ask me. But like I always say, before you go into the stock market and invest, make sure you you do your own research before investing in different stock exchanges or different assets on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Do your own research. Find out what is likely going to happen in 2024, which industry is going to make heavy returns. Just like the hospitality industry made heavy returns in 2023, contrary to the hospitality industry in 2020, which was the COVID year. So that should tell you that use the data of the past to predict what's likely going to happen in the future. And this year also, we have, I'm definitely going to tell you once we transition into the tech aspect, the different tech stories we have in our midst. But for now, let's stick to what we have so far in 2023. Nigeria also ranked 8th. One of the big stories in 2023 is that 2024, I beg your pardon, is that we ranked 8th in the International Finance Corporation as one of the biggest debtors. We have over 200 countries in the world, and we are 8th as one of the biggest debtors in the world. That's massive, if you ask me. And what exactly is one thing to incur debts? Because most of the billionaires on the billionaires' fob list, they have debts, they are servicing. But what did you use the debts to do? That's way more important than incurring debts. Did you use the debt to create assets that will bring in more money into the Nigerian economy? If you did that, then it's going to be easy for us to be servicing the debt. But based on based on our ranking in IFC Global Reports, we are ranked 8th as one of the biggest debtors in the world. Massive, if you ask me. It's not a good thing to find out if we are owing this much, trillions and trillions and trillions of naira, if you ask me. The fourth story we have here so far in 2023 is that we are about to launch the CNG stable coin as at February. We'll be launching that in February 27. Now, the CBN said, okay, they'll be launching a stable coin based on the fact that CBN now made the advent of cryptocurrencies legal in the Nigerian economy. Meaning if you trade cryptocurrencies, the likes of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, all the altcoins we have across the world, it is now legal for the banks and financial institutions to play in such risky assets. But when you're playing in such asset, you will need nothing but a stable coin. A coin that will be equivalent to the Nigerian Naira. Meaning one CNGN coin is going to be equivalent to 1 Naira. It's stable. It's going to be stable on the blockchain. And so that way, you would be able to say, okay, we have a stable coin for me to transfer my assets to, or for me to make an exchange. And that way, it just shows the interest, vested interest CBN is having in the cryptocurrency industry. And that tells us that regulation is most likely going to be on the corner. But just like we do on the business hour, we're going to be coming in with industry experts to definitely explain all of these things in subsequent episode for us to be able to understand what really is happening in the world of cryptocurrencies, rather than hiding behind P2P and hiding behind closed doors to operate to do any operation in the cryptocurrency industry. This time, CBN has said you are now officially allowed to play in that space as long as you do your due diligence and make sure you protect your asset. The next story we have is that Dangote Refinery received the 6th crude cargo in Dangote refineries. Remember when I was talking about top stories in 2023, we talked about the fact that the Dangote refinery was commissioned. And as it was commissioned, it took months for us to be able to have the first cargo come in to the refinery for the purpose of refining crude. But in 2024, we'll be having the 6th cargo coming on board into the Dangote refineries. At least operations has started. And these are the 5 big stories. And we also have one story also in 2024 so far. Maritime workers, they're threatening to shut down seaport from Tuesday, from tomorrow. They said they're going to be shutting down the seaport due to the backlog of contractors, and also because of some operations between IOCs, which are the international oil companies. We have oil companies having issues with maritime, and this time around, the unions said that they're going to be shutting down operations from Tuesday. Is it going to be affecting Nigeria? Yes, it's going to affect Nigeria because why? We are an importing economy. Vast majority of the commodities we use in this country, we import them. To toothpick, up until toothpick, as small as toothpick, we import literally everything from our oil. We import it to some FMCG product, to some massive project machineries, and here and there to the cars. We import literally everything. And the shutting down of the seaport, which the maritime workers said they're going to be doing, is definitely going to affect us. Another big story in 2024. We're just 1 week into 2024, and we're having different big stories in 2024. And that big story in 2024 is one of the biggest actresses we have in this country, Funke Akindele. Her movie grossed in nothing less than 1 billion naira in ticket sale. It has become the highest grossing Nollywood movie. Nollywood is beginning to transition. And just like I always say, there's always something positive about anything. Even the devil, there's something positive about the devil. He's very hardworking. There's something to learn from everyone. Bad as a bad, like we always say in this economy, bad as a bad, the entertainment industry keep trailblazing. And as we keep trailblazing, it tells us that a lot of big things are happening in the entertainment industry, from the movies to the music, a lot of things happening, and we can see this 1 billion naira coming into the Nigerian economy based on Funke Akidede's movie, A Tribe Called Judah. But then I'm going to take this break. We're going to go on a short break, and we're going to be coming back to tell you some of the big stories and also tell you other segments of the business hour. Don't go anywhere.
It's no longer.
Welcome back. One of the major things in 2024 is that we need to understand the trends. 2023 gave us big break as regards tech. A lot of tech companies were doing fantastically well. A lot of them did fantastically well. And that's why we're going to be talking about, we're going to be transitioning into the tech segment of the business hour. And this time around, we're talking about the big tech stories we've had. One of the biggest tech story is the fact that a particular company, Tingo, whose founder is likely going to get 45 years jail term after being charged with securities fraud. Oh my goodness. He's been featured on different magazines. He's a big-time tech founder, Tingo Mobile. He has Tingo Mobile. He's in the hospitality industry, the tech industry, different industry. He has a conglomerate. But this time around, they discovered that a lot of money laundering allegations were involved as regards his operations. A lot of money laundering model were involved as regards his operations, and it's likely he's going to receive 45 years jail term after being charged with securities fraud. That's why we always say not all that glitters is gold. If you do your proper due diligence, you get a market for the particular product you're going to service, then fine, put in the work. While putting in the work, go heavy in servicing that particular market you've discovered. There is no need venturing into fraud, because the end of it is not always well. The end of it always comes with gloom and doom, and that's what we're seeing here. It's one of the biggest stories that hits the airwaves in 2024, and this time around we're transitioning into the next story we have. Just like I said, is a crypto story we have in 2024. Is that on the 27th of February, we're going to have an official stable coin that is going to be representing the Naira. It's going to be called CNGN. It's going to be official, meaning you can transact your cryptocurrencies in the shores of Nigeria. You don't need to hide. All these crypto boys, crypto ladies, hey, come on board, come on air. It's now mainstream. You can buy your Ethereum, you can buy your Bitcoin, any exchange. You can go to any exchange and get access to your Bitcoin, convert it to the Naira exchange, which is to the Naira token, which is CNGN. But one big question I'm going to be asking is, what happened to the e-Naira that we had in 2022? What happened to the e-Naira? It was the talk of the town in 2022. And right now, we're having a stable coin called the CNGN. Let's see what the next big action is going to unfold based on this particular story, knowing fully well that it's going to go live on the 27th of February. Another big story is that 2023 was massive as regards AI. Oh my goodness, AI this, AI that. We had the advent of the biggest AI machine in the world right now that we call ChatGPT. Your personal assistant on the go. You could go there and ask it any question. It was the biggest kid in the block. And ChatGPT was more or less like a gateway to a lot of other AI tools we have in the world as we speak. And the world of AI has been very, very massive. It started from 2023 and now we have it in 2024. And it's definitely going to be the key index that we're going to be looking at as regards tech. Because a lot of things are going to be happening. AI is, tech is an enabler, but AI is an enabler's enabler. Meaning, if tech is going to help you get your job done by 2x, AI is going to help you get it done by nothing less than 20x. It is one of the fastest machines we've ever had and one of the fastest impact it's had on the human race as regards development. And the biggest story we have in 2024 from the tech world is that we have our first AI firm on theme on climate change. So the first AI film, and this film is focused on the impact on Africa. Because now, Zain Verji, which is a former CNN correspondent, and Matthew Miguel, a German, a Grammy award-winning director, they came together and they created what we call the first AI film. And this AI film is on climate change in Africa. Just 1 week into 2024, we're having the first AI film. Meaning, who knows if the future of AI is in the film industry is going to take jobs from actors. So, what's going to happen? I think these are the questions we need to ask because the world is beginning to ask those questions. A lot of the power players, the power blocks, the G20, the G7, all the economic summits, the World Economic Forum, they're beginning to ask questions. Yes, AI is good. It's massive. But is it going to affect the human race? Because if we have AI films and we have AI taking the jobs, is it going to take the jobs of actors and actresses? Meaning if it takes the job of actors and actresses, what is going to happen to the 1 billion naira Funke Akindele brought into the Nigerian economy with just one movie? So I think these are the questions regulators are beginning to ask. That's why I was saying that regulation is most likely going to come on board as regards AI. Because we need to start regulating all these big techs, all this machine learning. Our regulations going to come on board. ChatGPT took the jobs of a lot of writers. A lot of industries are being affected. We have a lot of AI tools from the likes of, what do we call it? AI tools that can help you design your flyers, design anything that has to do with graphics. We have them on board, Midjourney, doing all these designs in split seconds, in 10 seconds, 20 seconds. They're getting all these designs done, doing the job way faster, microseconds, getting the job done in split seconds faster than graphics designers. Are they going to take the jobs of graphic designers? Take the jobs of writers? Now, after it takes all those jobs, where are those guys going to turn to for jobs? So I think that's one of the major reasons why we have a lot of these guys coming on board, a lot of the big names, a lot of stakeholders in the global economy coming on board to see how they can regulate the entire tech industry as regards AI revolution. But I'm sure it's going to be big because we have lots of founders. We have lots of founders in the industry talking about these things. Another story we have in 2024 is that so far, we're going to be taking a look at what happened in 2023 because now we should have 3 seconds silence for the tech startups we lost in 2023. The tech startups we lost in 2023. I'm talking about a lot of startups that went out of business. Let's have 3-second silence for these startups. When I say 3-second silence for these startups, it means they went out of business. And the funny thing about these startups is that despite going out of business, they raised a cumulative sum of $70 million in Nigeria. We have the likes of Pivo, they went out of business in 2023. LaserPay went out of business in 2023. 54 Gene went out of business in 2023. That's the fintech industry affected, the healthcare industry affected. Bundle Africa went out of business in 2023. Payday also went out of business in 2023. Zazu Finance went out of business in 2023. Vibra went out of business in 2023. These 7 startups went out of business. And that was why we had 3-second silence for them. But what was the reason for all of this? I think it's one of the reasons why a lot of investors right now are beginning to do their proper due diligence. They are trying to find out why all these businesses went out of business. All these startups went out of business. What were the issues? It's quick for us to say that maybe lack of funds, but they raised nothing less than $70 million. $70 million for the Nigerian economy, brought into the Nigerian economy for most of these startups is quite some sum. So I think we need to do proper due diligence, which is what the VCs, investors are beginning to do before investing into some of all these startups. They're beginning to find out a lot about their founders. I know one of these startups here, which is Pivo, had founders issues. They were trying to find out what happened and irreconcilable differences between the founder and the co-founder, and it trickled down into the loss of the business. We have LaserPay, different things happening in those industries. Founders paying themselves huge sums to the detriment of the business, meaning there was no proper governance. And so these are questions we need to ask ourselves. And that's why we have the show called The Business Hour. And the Business Hour, we bring founders who have their skin in the game, people who have in one way or the other been able to put their skin in the game as regards getting business done, and who have in one way or the other been able to trailblaze different industries. They have track record, and these guys are coming on board to be able to explain what VCs should look out for. Why did this company fail? Why did these startups fail? And if we don't understand why they failed, then it will be difficult for us to be able to explain to founders what are the pitfalls they need to avoid. Because the failure is not just for us to mock them. No, far from it. The most beautiful thing about failure is the fact that we can pick up the lessons, and with those lessons, be able to determine what forthcoming founders or future founders should look out for and what they should avoid as regards building their own startup. And so these are the major things that happened. These are the major stories that happened in 2024, in 2023, and also has happened in 2024. Just like I said, this is the tech aspect of the Business Hour, and I'm going to be bringing you the next episode, the next aspect and the next segment of this particular episode. Don't go anywhere, because this time around we're going to be looking at crypto market analysis.
NNPC help plan to increase the price of petrol to be flexible.
Market analysis, here we come. And I always say that it's very important for you to do your proper due diligence before investing in any asset. If you don't do your proper due diligence, it's going to be difficult. You might end up losing your funds because why? It's a risky asset. It's a risky asset, and it's a risky asset class. If you're investing, you need to diversify your portfolio and see which of them is going into riskless assets like bonds, federal government bonds, commercial papers, and the likes. Which of them is going into risky assets, just like cryptocurrency? So you need to diversify your portfolio and do your proper due diligence. And I'm giving you this caveat so that you're not going to say that, hey, I heard this in Voice of the People TV from the Business Hour program, and so I'm investing in this. I'm going to give you the price of Bitcoin as we speak. The price of Bitcoin as we speak is $43,000, $43,860,000 as we speak. The price of Ethereum is $2,217,000 as we speak, and the price of Solana is $90 as we speak. This project has done fantastically well in the last 2 months. Solana, which is one of the biggest altcoins we have right now as we speak, it has done nothing less than 200% since October. 200% since October till now. That's massive. And as much as it can do such massive numbers, it can also do such massive numbers to the decline, meaning you can lose 90% from a particular asset in cryptocurrencies, or as high as 100%. So you need to be very, very careful when going into the crypto market. And I think that's one of the major reasons why we've been clamoring for regulations. And the government has seen that, hey, there are some things we can't change. You can't change some things. You can't go against the wave. Go with the wave, but at the same time, bring in regulations and play your cards according to the market. And that's what the market has done. And that's what the government has done as regards bringing regulations and trying to see how financial institutions can play in the cryptocurrencies market. And that's one beautiful and amazing thing about the entire launch of the CNGN token, stablecoin, that the government is bringing into place on the 27th of January. As usual, my name is Frank Fagbo, but before going, I'm going to bring us a big story before going. And the big trending story on the timeline, which I have a question for you that would require us opening the phone lines from tomorrow so that you're going to answer the question. The take home I'm going to be giving you is that there's a big trending story on Twitter. It's happened over the weekend. And Mommy Z, aka Debbie, aka Mommy Z, she's gotten over 5 million Naira donations and gift donations from Nigerians and well-wishers for a viral tweet about her marriage. So Nigerians were like, oh, you have a beautiful marriage. This is what you do, waking up to do. And waking up to do to cook for your husband, and you've made this such sum, 5 million Naira. The big question I have for you is, let's be real. Do you think that public agencies should use public funds for giveaways and generosity? I think this is the question that we need to ask ourselves, and Nigerians are asking, and we need to answer. Do we think that public agencies should use public funds for giveaways and generosity? The reason for this question is that we had NNPC and also NITDA coming out to give donations and giveaways based on this viral story. This is the big question I have for you for tomorrow. As usual, my name is Frank Fagbo, and I'm going to be coming back tomorrow, same time, same station, to bring you the Business Hour. Don't go anywhere, because the Voice of the People TV has got you covered.